Well, hey, folks, happy Monday evening. It's 9:02:20. We go live in about 40 seconds. So, everybody, you just get ready to roll here because we're going to go dark. This is just the pre-show. We're getting set up. Looks like we're all set. The sound is up. Picture's up. Yada yada's up. We got about 20 seconds and we go live over on radio. So we're going to go dark. You all just sit tight and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, happy Monday evening, everybody. Welcome to the Intrepid radio program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show. If you don't know that already, welcome, everybody, one and all. We are broadcasting. Hello, habla, habla, habla. It's easy for me to say, huh? We are broadcasting live over on Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. Go on over. You can hear just the audio version of this show over there. The sad part about our radio station is we don't have a chat room over there. So if you want to join the chat room, have live interactive chat going on during the show with the other Intrepids, come on over to my YouTube channel, turn on the chat. You can even pop the chat window out if you don't want to watch the video and listen to it over on OdysseyRadio.com. And that is over on my YouTube, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. The video of you is small. Yes, it is, Leslie, because I've got the big, do you see the big header? While I've got the header up, I look small. So let me remove the header. Boom. There we go. Now I'm big. Hey, Leslie, by the way, good to see you. Let's just put our real show header back on. And that looks like that. And we're also going to run the scroll bar at the bottom. So everybody, welcome. And thank you, Leslie. I only looked small because we had the big header up and over on the video. You can go to patreon.com and become a member, says Leslie Holker. Thank you, Leslie. Yes, everybody, you can go over there and where is it? Nobody puts Scotty in the corner, says Steph. I clicked on that by accident. I was going to click on this one. You can go over to patreon.com and become a member. Not that you're chopped liver or anything, Steph. I was going to show what Leslie said, that you can go to Patreon, become a member at Patreon. That helps support this show. And as you all know, just a little bit of inside business. This show isn't my mainstay, my income. I don't support my family with this show. However, wouldn't it be cool if I did? So if we get enough members that support this show could be something that we do a lot of spectacular things with, above and beyond the time we have to do now. So I appreciate everything you do. Leslie, I don't think she minds if I say this, has been a big donor to this show over the last several years. And I appreciate what she's done. And everybody else who is too. If you become a member here on YouTube or over on my Patreon, please do. Helps us go further with what we want to do. And that includes doing some TV and stuff too. So, but that's just sitting on the burner until we get there. So thanks everyone for what you've done. I think you've all seen what we're capable of doing with this show. The radio portion, the video portion, the television type of stuff we've done, the YouTube shows where Rocky and John and I used to go and do ghost hunting. Rainey and I have done some ghost hunting, but we haven't done an actual episodic thing with that yet, doing adventure and exploration and paranormal adventure and exploration. You want to see more of that? Let me know. Become a member. Help let this show go as big as we can get it. We'll see how big we can get it. And thank you. I'm going to put an end to that talk right here and now. We're done with that. So everybody, also, I do want to say for a little bit of self-personal advertising, if you have seen the Bible trading cards that we've done, the Ancient Heroes trading cards. Now, they're biblical in nature, but keep in mind, they're not, they're rather non-denominational, because we've taken Old Testament characters, which are Jewish, which are Christian, which are all the different denominations held therein, and we've shown heroes of the Bible and treated them as ancient historical characters as well as ancient patriarchs of faith. So go check that out. Go to ancientheroesofthebible.com. And after the show, just before the captain's cabin comes on, you'll see a little clip, and you've probably seen it 100 times if you watch this show. And so go, they're great stocking stuffers. They're $7.99. Well, let's just say $8 a pack. You get 8 cards. And they're $48 for the entire set of 48 cards. That's all. Let's go on. We're talking about mediumship tonight. Mediumship is that thing where you want to believe it, and at times you find yourself very drawn into it, as I have. You found mediums who actually come up with staggeringly accurate information, and it draws you in. Yet at times, if you're anything like me, you find yourself going, oh, here's someone else claiming they're a medium. And, but there's something to it. You just don't know how it all works. You don't know if you should believe what you hear. I have a lot of good friends who really poo-poo mediumship, psychic ability, speaking to the dead and things like that, because they have different philosophies underneath that. A philosophy of maybe thinking there is nothing beyond to talk to. They have a philosophy that might be atheistic. And if you're atheistic, then why would you believe that somebody could speak to a spirit? Why would a spirit even exist? So you've got a broad array of beliefs in between. And then I've wondered this about reincarnation. If there is such a thing as reincarnation, then why can you still talk to spirits? Aren't those spirits reincarnating into something or somebody else? And I suppose there's a million answers to that question as well. So there's all kinds of beliefs that we can bring into it, and yet at the same time, all kinds of skepticisms that we bring into it. And we ask questions and we wonder why. We wonder what we're supposed to believe about it. Is it real? Is it fake? Are all mediums fake? If you saw with the banner for tonight, I put, as many of us know, not all mediums are fraudulent. I only put that. I started by saying underneath the surprising scientific evidence for mediumship. And then the tag underneath, not all mediums are fraudulent. And I thought, well, wait, now that sounds like my starting point is one of all mediums are fraudulent. I don't think they are. So I put in there, as all of us already know, not all mediums are fraudulent. So there's all kinds of information out there. There are mediums that are, I think, that are fake. They're charlatans. They're fraudulent. They do it for the money to draw you in. Or now, do all those people, do they all know they're fakes and they all know they're charlatans and they're all doing it to try to get your money? It's possible. Some of them do. I think there are some that maybe believe that they're mediums. Maybe they've got a little bit of a gift. Maybe they stumbled upon something and they think that they can capitalize on that. That was one of the things when I was doing tarot readings. When I started doing tarot readings, I thought, do I put it out there that I do this stuff? Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe I don't really know what I'm doing. And sometimes I don't. And I always would say almost apologetically to people, you know what? I'm not a medium. I don't read futures. I don't, unless it's on the stock market. And I wish that ever worked for me. It didn't. But I don't read futures. I don't feel the spirit, spirit tells me that this and this. I don't get that. I throw the cards down. I always used to say that the cards are a positive crutch for me because it's not me delivering the message. The message is being delivered. I'm just you could say conduit. I'm the facilitator of the message by laying out the cards. Um, Field Guy says, I can predict the future. I predict panties dropping one day. Well, do tell us, Field Guy. Give us more detail on that. Or is it supposed to be eerily vague like that? I have no idea what you're talking about. So I missed the tarot readings on Sunday morning show. We were going to do some this last Sunday, Leslie, and then we got a couple of former military guys on here. We had Jason was on here, Jason Patrick, and also my friend Travis Thorpe, who I think you know, Leslie, at least through the show. And we got into military talk. We never made it to tarot. We'll try again, maybe Friday night this week instead of doing a ghosty show. We'll shoot for doing a tarot show. How about that? Let me take a drink. Boy, that was good, and it wasn't even alcoholic. It was just cold on my throat. Yeah, we got into Speedos too, Randall Flagg. We did talk about Speedos and the wearing of. So, Sunday's show was interesting, to say the least. And so there is this, let's call it inexplicable communications, parapsychology, the surprising scientific evidence for mediumship. Now, all the skeptics out there, the atheistic ones, are the ones that are more, if it's not scientific, I don't know about you guys. I think that this is some maybe good information for people who think on a more scientific level. There's some key points I'm going to cover with this in here tonight that I want you to think about as we do it. Although many mediums out there might be fraudulent, there are some really remarkable cases that have never been explained. We're going to cover some of those. Now, in saying that, I'm not saying every psychic is fraudulent. I know that there have been some good psychics out there who were debunked as being frauds or found out to be frauds. Yet, I think of the case of Derek Acora. He was the original psychic on the British show Most Haunted, if you remember that one, with Annette Fielding, and Kieran O'Keefe was the parapsychologist on that show. And Derek Acora, he was found to be making things up or knew some information, and yet he went on and he did some other things, and he was very good at that before he passed away. And that's where my friend Chris Conway, after they fired him from Most Haunted, when he was caught, Chris Conway came on board, and Chris Conway's a medium. He's the one that went to Egypt with John Ward and I and our group back in 2014. God, that's almost 10 years ago now, when my daughters came. So there are some good mediums out there. There are some frauds out there. Like the 900 number calls. Remember when that was the big craze? Miss Sylvia or something like that. What was her name? She wore the turban and had the crystal ball. Oh, did her TV ads. You pay $1 a minute for that. And they'd keep you on the phone for 90 minutes with misleading information. Okay, anyway, so we're going to talk about some of the remarkable cases. Now, one of the most famous mediums was Leonora Piper, who was extensively tested by William James and many others. We're going to look at her a little bit. And in recent years have been scientific studies of high-level mediums with successful results. So not everyone you see on TV is a charlatan. A 2020 meta-analysis showed that mediums were scoring significantly higher than chance. And so we're going to cover some of these. Back in 1985, the strangest chess match in his... By the way, 1985, I saw that on my screen here, and my eyes, I don't have my glasses on. I thought it said 1885. Reminded me of something, a little anecdotal story from today. I went to renew my license, and they said, we can't renew your license. There's a couple of things on your record. And I said, what's on my record? Remember when I talked to you about my taxes and stuff, where they found, you still owe the guardian ad litem from your divorce from 2001. So and I had all the liens from the state of Wisconsin on my IRS, taxes, any refunds I got, things like that. And in thousands of dollars for something that was 22 years old. And an old, what was the ticket? I think the ticket was a taillight was out passing through a small town in Wisconsin. And those of you who are from around here, Prescott, Wisconsin, it's actually Prescott, Minnesota. It's on the Minnesota side of the river. And I got a ticket for a taillight out passing through there. Never paid it. It was during the divorce back in 2001. Yeah, 2001. And 20 years later, I get a letter from the state of Wisconsin saying, oh, we're putting a lien out on this. And it was only like $138 or something. I called him. I said, well, let me just pay it. I said, it's kind of dumb. I didn't even know that existed anymore from 20 years ago. I said, are you kidding me? I said, I wish I could collect money from people who owed me from 20 years ago. I'd be a rich man today. So how is it possible that you owed when you had the children, Scotty? Let's see. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Back taxes? Because there was one year that they said I didn't file. 2012. They said I didn't file a tax. And I said, I file every year electronically through H&R Block. And I get refunds almost every year because I've got 3 kids. We've got all the earned income credits, blah, blah, blah. You know what it's like if you do taxes. And so 2012, they wanted to charge me $1,700 because they said I hadn't filed it. So they estimated my tax that I owed at $1,700. Well, I was not notified of this. Now, it was for year 2012. I wasn't notified of that until about a year ago. I got a letter. Oh, we finally found here. You owe us $1,700 plus the interest for all those years. It ended up being over $4,900, $4,900. They took it out of 2 tax returns as a lien, last year's and the year before. So I got a letter about a year and a half ago. And so I'm trying to rush the details here. You're not getting all the details. Trust me, it all fits. And so I found out that there's that tax we can't find it. The IRS has no record for it. I must not have filed it. So I filed 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way up through 22. And so it's like somewhere in there I missed a year. And I don't even know why. There's no record of it. There's no record at H&R Block. They don't go back that far, the electronic blah, 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 to say this, that now I find out if I get that tax filed, I get all that money back, that $5,000. So knock on wood, hopefully that'll be here in time for Christmas. So all kinds of little stuff like that. Just Wisconsin is just horrid about all that stuff. They're so freaking pathetically crooked, says Steph. I hope you're referring to my story. Yeah. So anyway, that's all that stuff. If I'd have been a medium, maybe I could have foreseen that. But then again, mediumship isn't always psychic. Like I have the ability to see the future. Mediumship could be I talk to the dead. That might not have anything to do with predicting future activity. So, all I was going to say about the 1985, that's what got me on that rabbit trail. Today I had something on my license that said it wasn't paid. And so I called and they were stalling my license until I figure out what that was. So I called. So I owe about $300 on an old ticket. That old ticket is from 2006. 2006, folks. It was a ticket. I don't even know exactly what it was for. I never got a speed. It gave me the date. It was August in 2006. And anyway, and it said, then the automated thing said I had one more thing on my record. And I said, well, play that one for me. And it said, ticket number F as in Frank, S as in Sam, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6, 2, 0, 0 on December 30th, 1899. 0 is due. But it's showing up my record as something that's holding up my renewal of my driver's license in Wisconsin. So go figure that one. I have no idea. So I called, I talked to somebody. I got to pay the fine plus $20 to reinstate my Minnesota license so I can then get my Wisconsin license reinstated. And I said, well, why is this happening after, how many years is that? 2006 to today. 14, that's 17 years ago. I said, why am I just finding out about this now? How come it worked before? She said, I have no idea. So go figure. There it is. Computers are batshit crazy, says Field Guy. Leslie says, all I can say is the government better hope we don't pass a law in this country forcing a yearly audit of their irresponsible spending. Damned straight, Leslie. Don't get me started on that, or we'll never get to our topic. We're already 23 minutes in. So suffice it to say, I'm just going to say, I've had all this little bits of shit of old things that, yes, they're my responsibility, but did I let them just sit undone? No. I'm finding out. I'm like, what else is hanging out there? I got something from my divorce, which I didn't know I had. I got my kids in that divorce. I became a sole custodial parent of my 3 children, but apparently had a bill I still owed the guardian ad litem for a divorce case, a custody case, that with interest cost me several $1,000s. Plus, I also got hit with that tax return from 2012. They stripped $5,000, just about $5,000. And so now I'm slowly but surely recovering from these. Now the driver's license thing. I'm like, what is it that takes 20 years to catch up, and I find out I got a problem, or 17 years in this case. So now I got to fix that. There's always something to strip away the little bit you have. The tax person I met with today on the 2012 thing, she says Wisconsin are just assholes when it comes to taxation. And she says, trust me. She said they made an estimate, and I remember asking them, what did you base the estimate on? And they said, based on what you made the previous year. I said, the previous year, I got like a $4,000 tax return in 2011. I got the record of it. Well, we don't estimate the deductions. We just estimate what we believe you owe us. And that's what they went on. But it sat fallow for how many years since 2012? 2012 to this year, 11 years. And 11 years worth of interest. So there you go. Boom, 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 boom. Sam, my son Sam is here. Sam Joseph Roberts. If you stick around, you should call into the captain's cabin after the top of the hour, Sam. I see him over there. What did Sam say? He said nothing. It's just about keeping the poor rich and the rich poor. Oh, and the rich rich. The poor poor and the rich rich. There's something in there. Leslie says, how to be an archaeologist available to buy. I just talked to the publisher the other day, and it's not printed yet, so I don't know for sure. We're still trying to get that. I want it to be available for Christmas. Leslie, I will have a succinct answer for you on that by tomorrow. I will call and I'll tell them, hey, I got people that would like to order that for Christmas. Can we do that? Will it be available for Christmas? I'll find out. Oh, I needed that wet my whistle after all that belly aching. Let me get on with mediumship here, which is where we were. In 1985, that's what sent me off on the rabbit trail for 10 plus minutes. The strangest chess match in history began. It was Wolfgang Eisenbeis, who was a Swiss amateur chess player with an interest in parapsychology. He decided to try to arrange a match between a deceased grandmaster and a living one. And he approached the living grandmaster, Victor Korchnoi. Let's see, how do you pronounce his name? Korchnoi. Korchnoi. He was known for his own interest in parapsychology, and he agreed to the experiment. And the medium, Robert Rollins, claimed to contact a Hungarian grandmaster called Giza Moravsky. Moraxi. Marocczy. How do you pronounce the CZ? Morachi? Something like that. He had died in 1950. Now, we'll call him Morachi. He was a Hungarian who had once been ranked the third best player in the world. So Robert Rollins didn't play chess himself, but Morachi communicated the moves to him. And the game continued for 48 moves, with Korchnoi winning. Analysis by chess experts, including Bobby Fischer, the most famous player of his time, verified that Morachi's abilities were at grandmaster level. And the experts also attested that Morachi's style of play was rather old-fashioned and consistent with Morachi's actual style. So in addition to the game, the discarnate, as in non-physical, Morachi wrote a 38-page text containing many specific details about his life. Wolfgang Eisenbeis followed this up with 91 detailed and specific questions, which he directed to Morachi through the medium. And an investigator found that of the 81 answers there where information was available, 79 were correct. 81 answers, 79 were correct. How about that? So how can we explain this strange case? Although Robert Rollins claimed not to play chess, said he doesn't play chess, perhaps he was really a highly proficient player, a closet chess player. However, given that he would have to play at the level of a grandmaster, this seems unlikely. So perhaps the medium or Eisenbeis phoned other living grandmasters to ask their advice. This is theoretically possible, but no grandmasters have ever reported being contacted. In addition, this wouldn't fit with Morachi's distinctive old-fashioned style of chess playing, in that grandmaster style. Or, unthinkable as it may seem, is it possible that the medium was actually in contact with the spirit of Morachi? Morachi, however you say it. Moraxki, who was communicating the moves to him from the dead, from the other side. Now, this would obviously mean that Morachi was somehow still alive in some form, in a different realm or a different dimension, 35 years after his physical death. And there's a whole lot more about that story and that case. That case is documented. I can't take the time to go into it. It would take another whole show to do that. But that brings up the questions of this puzzle of mediumship. The idea that mediums can somehow contact deceased people, maybe it sounds absurd. I've had mediums that have that I've used looking for living people. And that was eerie enough. I've told some of the stories of that, but Sam, if you're still here, it was before Sam was born, but my ex-wife had run off with my twin daughters when they were 2 years old, just before they turned three, and disappeared with them and was filing divorce, and I couldn't find my kids. I actually consulted a medium who, it was through a bookstore. It wasn't all on the internet. This is back in 1990. What year would it have been? 93. Late 93. Early 1994. So there wasn't the internet the way we know it now at all. 97 before I even got on the internet myself. And but through this bookstore, they quizzed me and they asked me a bunch of questions, and there was they had me meet this medium at a public place in a restaurant, and if I remember right, it was at a TGI Fridays. I just said, for lunch on a Saturday afternoon, why don't you meet me at this TGI Fridays where I go quite often? And and she was a very attractive, strawberry blonde, I remember. Um, I remember she had what I've seen on other sites. She had these cat eyes. That sticks very much in but she looked very normal, nice, long strawberry blonde hair. She was wearing a pink sweater and a nice pair of pants. She wasn't like rings coming out of every bit of flesh that was exposed and tattoos all over. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but she wasn't one of those types of people that are very ostentatious about it. And I'm a witch and I'm a psychic. It wasn't that. And so she saw my kids, my daughters at the time. She saw my wife. She described a picture of me that my kids had in their possession, sitting on their dresser, wherever they were being hidden from me. And she described the picture. And she said it has a mirror, like a frame. And there was a little picture, 5x7, with mirrors as the mirrored glass as the frame, and a picture of me. And she said, you're wearing a long coat. And I was. It's like one of the long rider's coats, Western, that I was wearing in this particular picture. And so she saw things. And there's other mediums. I've got other stories I could tell other times that saw things. So the idea that mediums can somehow contact deceased people might sound kind of absurd to some people out there. Can they really do that? And usually the people that find it absurd are the ones that don't subscribe to the idea that there are people who've gone on to another realm, have passed this life, that are contactable. And some people ask generic questions, and they make high probability guesses until it seems as though they're providing specific details. I'm in contact with somebody in your life, and name begins with an M. I don't think so. An N, P, B, G. It's G. C. The spirits were speaking, and you get that kind of stuff that goes on. And that's the stuff I poo-poo as well myself. And they make guesses until they're stumbling on something that sounds like specific detail. In some cases, they may not even bother to provide specific details, as they know that bereaved people are often already ready to pounce on even the vaguest information about their loved ones. The activities of such fraudulent mediums can be replicated quite easily by magicians and illusionists. I could do it without really seeing anything. If you're an actor, you can do it. I tell good stories. I act well. Blowing my horn there. Sorry. You know what I mean? If you can tell a good story and you can act, you can usually become a good fraudulent medium. But this doesn't necessarily invalidate the whole field of mediumship. Just as the fact that there's some doctors who are quacks doesn't invalidate the whole medical profession, does it? In fact, there have been many highly proficient mediums whose ability to elicit highly accurate and detailed information about deceased people and even express their abilities and personality traits has never been explained in conventional terms. So since the 19th century, and if any of you get hung up on that, 19th century, 1800s, 20th century, 1900s, 21st century, 2000s, etc. So, since the 19th century, many high-level mediums have been rigorously, repeatedly tested by scientists and other observers, and in some cases for decades without evidences of fraud. And one of the most famous was Leonora Piper, which we mentioned at the beginning. She was born in 1850. Piper was 40 years before, almost 50 years before my last parking ticket. But she was born in 1850. Piper was probably tested more extensively than any medium in history. And the great psychologist William James conducted many tests with Piper and sent 25 of his colleagues and acquaintances to see her under pseudonyms. They came in under false names. And Piper startled James's sitters. Startled James's sitters, the term used for people who visit mediums, with accurate descriptions of deceased people's appearances and activities. She relayed communications from a wide range of deceased relatives and friends of the sitters, including many small and highly specific details. I remember hearing a medium doing a gallery session live, and he was talking about something about, and this is somebody I know, talking something about this little boy of yours that passed away. He said, he's showing me something to tell me. I'm getting shivers just saying it. It's going right up the backs of my arms. He says, he's showing me something to prove to you that this was really him. He's holding up, he says, it looks like it's a dandelion or something like that. And the mom started to cry because that happened to be a thing of his to tell her that he loved her when he was a little boy. He'd give her dandelions. And when he died as a little boy, there was some kind of dandelion connection. I don't remember the whole meat of the story, but it hit right on a mark. And so the medium, there's a small detail. There's a dandelion. And this Leonora Piper, she frequently passed on relevant messages from disincarnates, those who are not incarnate, those who are not in the body, often using appropriate body language. And as a result of these tests, James wrote, I now believe her to be in possession of a power as of yet unexplainable. And so that is one case of somebody who's been looked at by skeptics to try to determine whether or not she was telling the truth. Now, they've done some of that in modern day, and they've caught some people making things up, which is a sad state of affairs for people that believe in them. And the hordes of people. What was the one? Edwards was one. They said they caught him and stuff, but the jury's out for me on Edwards. I don't know if he's real or not. The Long Island medium. People like that. You don't know. You just don't know. I had my friend Teresa St. Francis, who wrote the book that we talked about it, referenced it again not long ago, where she is a medium, and she was constantly being visited by the spirits of young people, teens and adolescents, college-age kids who had committed suicide. And she was really prodded and almost harangued by these spirits until she agreed to write a book about it. And she even contacted some of the parents. And it was, yes, John Edwards. Thank you, Leslie. And you can see her book. If you look on my website, there's not a link to it. There's a cover design on my website. What Happens the Day After, I think it was the title. And it's about kids who committed suicide. And they came and gave her their stories. And she went into that. And it was just, I edited the book for her, and then I designed the book and the cover and all of that. And so I read the book probably 5 times in the editing process. And it made a deep impression. And she is somebody that's one of the real people that's out there, I believe. Teresa St. Francis. I think she's on my Facebook still. But anyway, there's empirical research. So even more striking in recent years, there's been several highly rigorous scientific studies of really high-level mediums. And they have successful results, including double, triple, and even quintuple blind studies. Researchers such as Julie Beischel at the Windbridge Research Institute, they've taken stringent measures to exclude any possibility of suggestion, fraud, or sensory leakage when information is unconsciously transferred between the medium and the sitter. Such studies use a proxy sitter so that the medium has no direct contact with the actual sitter, that is the person that's associated with the deceased person that they're speaking to. And the medium is simply given the name of the deceased person, asked to contact them, The medium doesn't know the name in advance, which removes the possibility of fraud. The medium then provides a reading. And by the way, this is all scientific. This is scientific methodology, testing things in a controlled setting over and over again. Scientific method. The medium then provides this reading, providing as much detail as they can about the disincarnate's appearance, their personalities, their hobbies, their interests, their cause of death, and so on. And the sitter is given the transcript, together with a transcript of a reading from the same medium with a different sitter. And the sitter has to pick the transcript that's relevant to them and then rate the accuracy of the information. And the procedure is repeated many times over in different settings with the same medium. This is that testing it in the laboratory sort of scientific methodology. Now, by the way, I've told this story before on this show. The first time I met Michael and Marty Perry, who are psychic mediums. Well, Michael does the mediumship, and his wife, Marty, she'll sit and draw pictures with a dead set on. So she draws pictures of, sometimes it's of the people that he's reading. Well, the first time I met them was at Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky. And I was up in their room. It was 2009, I believe, was when I first met them. And I just went out and I visited them last year when I was out in LA filming that piece for History's Greatest Mysteries. And we went out to dinner together. And so they're still friends of mine. And but the first time I met them, he did a reading for me. And when I came in to their room, he says, now, and he's British, he says, now, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything in advance. And he does that because he says, I don't want to taint the way I'm thinking. I don't want my thinking misled by what you want to tell me. He says, I'll just tell you what I get. Okay. So I sat quietly, and he's the one that called up my aunt. And he'd start talking, and he says, okay, I see. He says, there's a lot of people here that seem to want to talk to you. He says, there's one, she's jumping around up and down. He says, she's kind of a small woman with red hair and really happy and giddy and jumping up and down and waving. And he's going, I see you, love. He says, I see you, love, I see you. And he says, she's saying, could you give me your name? And he says, this is the one where he said, it's Sandy. It's Sandy. And then Marty takes off her headset and she goes, she's saying, not it's Sandy. She says, she's saying it's Andy. And of course, my aunt, Andy, my mom's mother, or my mother's sister, is the one that passed away. She's the one that I got on that big spirit box session out at the ranch late one night with Bryn when Bryn was 16. And so she's jumping around, and then she brings in my grandfather, who died shortly after him. He's the one that went, I was the money, he says. I was the money. He says, that's how you'll know him. That was my Jewish grandfather. No offense to any Jews out there. It was stereotypical. I was the money. And so, and they brought Bill Fisher, the guy that mentored me when I was a young teen and brought me into the faith I was in. And so all these people appeared, and Michael didn't know a damn thing about me. And there were a couple of times he said, well, let me tell you what that, and he goes, no. He says, just let's wait till we're done. Then you can fill me in. So strictly controlled studies with this type of protocol, as I have just told you, have shown a consistent and highly significant strike rate of around 75%. And as a group of researchers wrote recently, the findings of these studies strongly suggest that certain mediums can report accurate and specific information about the deceased loved ones, or the term disincarnate, as they used in the study, disincarnates, of living people without any prior knowledge about the sitters or the disincarnates, in the complete absence of any sensory feedback, without using fraud or deception. About 75% accuracy. In 2020, a meta-analysis of all the significant medium studies from 2001 to 2019, an 18-year period, was published, including only papers with the most stringent controls. An analysis of the statistics showed that mediums were scoring significantly higher than chance. And just stumbled upon coincidental information. And as researchers commented, the results of this meta-analysis support the hypothesis that some mediums can retrieve information about a deceased person through unknown means. Meaning, we don't know how they're getting that information when there is absolutely no way for them to even know, in the blind studies, even know the people they were reading. So, and given a name just on site. So, William James, again, late 19th century, famously said in relation to Eleonora Piper, I typed Eleonora, it's Lenora Piper, to upset the conclusion that all crows are black, there's no need to seek demonstration that no crows are black. You don't have to demonstrate that. If you're going to say that not all crows are black, there's no need to seek to demonstrate that no crows are black. It's sufficient to produce one white crow. A single one is sufficient to prove the hypothesis that all crows are not black. So in the case of mediumship, we've got many white crows that are out there. So we may have to revise some of our assumptions about human life, no matter how incomprehensible the alternatives might seem. I mean, it is. It's kind of crazy. So there is scientific studies that exist, and there's a lot more detail on some of these studies that I could give you if I wasn't just going for the superficial and talking about scientific studies have been done, which is kind of what I did tonight. But there's other things I want you to consider as well. And there's this one study I saw, or this article I saw, that talks about, are you a wounded healer? That kind of shoestrings into this. And many among us are wounded healers, even those who are not in the helping profession. And I want to explain what I mean by this. And see if you fit into this category of this mediumship, this psychic behavior, this empathetic. There's a lot of people I've noticed lately that claim, well, I'm an empath. Okay, you're an empath. Or some of them will say to me, not just they're an empath, but they'll say even to me, oh, well, obviously you're empathic. I said, well, maybe I am. So wounded healers, now listen to this close, folks. See if this fits who you are. Wounded healers are people whose painful experiences enable them to help others. I know people in this very group. I don't know if she's here tonight. You know who I'm talking about. Without calling her out to get permission to call her out. There are people in this group of Intrepid listeners and chatters that are wounded healers. They've had painful experiences that enable them to help other people. Wounded healers are great listeners. They're empathic. They're accepting. They're resourceful. And they view all their experiences as opportunities. That bad thing that happened to me, that's an opportunity. I could say I gripe and complain about my speeding tickets. Not speeding tickets. That's the first thing that popped into my head because I don't have any speeding tickets. I gripe and complain about the past stuff associated with my taxes and stuff like that. They're learning experiences. Leslie Holker says in the chat room, wounded healers know the greatest love through pain. Yeah, they do. Wounded healers might be inside or outside of the helping professions, but they are people that have experience and they view all their experiences as opportunities. I was in a conversation not long ago with a friend, and we were talking about trauma. This friend reminded me that we're all wounded people. We all have traumas. We all have shit from our past. Junk that controls us if we let it. So this friend reminded me that we're all wounded. And the comment made me stop to think. We think sometimes we look at ourselves and go, I was really wounded over this, but we don't realize how many people there are that are wounded. Everybody's wounded in some respect or another. Rare is the person who does not have a wound. I know, I've mentioned him before. When I was in seminary, I had a hero of the faith, Jim Elliot, who was one of the 5 missionaries that was killed by the Auca Indians back in 1957. And his wife wrote the book, his surviving wife wrote the book, Through Gates of Splendor. If you're old enough, maybe none of us really old enough to remember the event when it happened, but know the story as it was repeated of these 5 missionaries that flew a little yellow Piper plane in among the Aucas. And they were all killed. After making contact and trading goods with them, they killed them. They were told to kill them by their witch doctors. And she went back in, the wife of Jim Elliot went back in with her children to seek these people out. And she was accepted, and she lived with them for years. And but Jim Elliot, in his journals, I had a book in seminary, The Journals of Jim Elliot. He was a young man. He was in his 20s when he was killed by the Auca Indians. But I used to read his journals, and he said, he made this quote. He said, God will never use someone greatly until he has allowed them to be wounded deeply. Think about that for a minute. Why is that? Why is there such laws of the universe that it's so hard to be someone that can help people unless you have been someone in need of help yourself? When you think about that, everybody's been wounded. You could say, no, we're not. But after thinking about it, you have to agree. The difference in each of our situations is that we own our own stories. We're the only ones who can write the narrative of our lives. Who are the wounded healers? Many of us in helping professions are wounded healers. I only include myself in that because I was once in a ministerial position in life. I think this show, to a certain extent, at times, even though we talk about, Speedos and stuff like that on one day and sex, the next day we can talk about things that are very near and dear to all of those of us who need healing on one thing or another. But many of us in these professions that are considered healing professions are wounded healers, as are many saints. You look at people like Mother Teresa, acknowledge their struggles with the darkness of doubt. St. Thomas more struggled with fear and depression. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Nazi concentration camp, had his struggles and consequently helped others through his creation of the logotherapy, which we've talked about on this show. A therapeutic approach to helping people find their life purpose, logotherapy. And he wrote about this in his in-depth book, Man's Search for Meanings. We've got a minute left with the radio audience, but there's shamans that are out there. Shamans have often been called wounded healers. These visionary journeys that they take with animal spirits or power animals tend to be healing because those who were traumatized become liberated from emotional, psychosomatic, and physical disease. There's a wounded healer archetype. Carl Jung came up with that. Wounded healers are very often intuitive and insightful. By sharing their stories, they help inspire others on their journeys. There's so much more to this, and I cut myself short of time talking about other stuff at the beginning. My rabbit trails. We got about 30 seconds and we got to blast off for the radio audience, but you can come and join us in the Captain's Cabin where we'll talk about this a little bit more. Captain's Cabin's over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Come and join us in the chat room, join the conversation, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. And so all of you over there, I want to thank you for being here for the radio show over on odysseyradio.com. And come on over to the chat room, Scotty Roberts, or youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Until then, live long and prosper. Shalom.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave.
Well, welcome to the captain's cabin, everyone. Glad to have you here on a Monday night after Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great holiday, although we did talk about that on Sunday. And so there's some more stuff about this whole empathic thing. Maybe we'll talk about it a little more here. Maybe we'll just pick it up on Wednesday a little bit and talk about this empathic healing thing. Arg, says Steph Cuervo Queen. Good to talk to you, Steph. Good to see you here. And by the way, I do have a guest hanging in the wings here. It is the one, the only, my firstborn son, Sam Roberts, Samuel Joseph Roberts. And we'll bring him in just a minute here. But first, I just want to say welcome to everybody that's here. Field guy, arr. That's how pirates moan, arr. Anita Palmer, good to see you here. Sarah Youssef, glad you made it in today. And who else we got? So I go through. I got Steph is here. And Leslie Holker, I hope you're still here. Or unless she said good night. Good night, Leslie. Good night, Steph. Okay, she's probably gone. Good night to you, Scotty, and everyone else. May you all be blessed with a happy, carefree holiday season. Love to you all. Thank you, Leslie. We'll do our best. Barbie D is here. Good to see you, Barbie D. And who else we got? I'm just going backwards. She says, Elvis is in the building. Good to see you, Elvis. I'm glad you're here. And Michael is here. Michael Brewer, Viking Off-Roading. And Sam, of course, is here. He'll be in here in a moment. And Field Guy is here. I don't know if I said hi to you, Field Guy, already. I'm just going back through. Ryan Gale at least was here a while ago. 9:43, it says he was here. If two mediums read the same person, they should get the same results. They should. I think they've tried that. And that was part of one of these studies, by the way, is that they had a couple of different mediums reading people. And sometimes you'll get different information. Doesn't mean it's wrong information. So if I missed you over here saying hi to you, sorry about that. Just because I'm scrolling backwards and it keeps wanting to jump. Jason is here. Good to see Jason. He's out there. And so let me bring in Sam. Oh, Randall Flagg is here. Good to see you, Randall. And I'm looking. I'm still looking. And so I think I hit a lot of you. There's some, if I missed you, I'm sorry. Sam, let's get Sam in here. He's over there patiently waiting. We also have Sarah Youssef is hanging in the wings. We'll bring you in a minute, Sarah. So here is my son, Sam. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Right on.
Listening in, obviously.
Yes.
I have a little bit on the topic of a medium, because
if you want to start talking about the show itself and the topic, I'm going to bring Sarah in as well. Because she might be Sarah might be able to add something good to this. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Hey, it looks like I'm seeing double.
Hey.
Just about. All I got to do is get the red beard coming back out. My beard was red when I was Sam's age too, so that's interesting.
Hey, mine will be gray.
Now it's white. What's that?
I said mine will be gray one day too.
Yeah, sooner than you think.
I'm growing it out for my pirate act. You get my.
Oh yeah.
Going.
Yeah, you got to get that full stash going.
Exactly.
I didn't have a full stash until I was 30, but and then you just grow the ends out and you put a little mustache wax in there. You get them,
Yes.
And sometimes I grow it out full, so it's like full.
Well,
and other times,
an amazing Santa Claus.
I could. I got the red nose for it. So. Anyway, so your question was, and that's why I brought you in, Sarah, right away rather than wait any longer, because Sam had some questions about this. And I thought maybe you'd have some perspectives, some insights. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, me?
Yes.
I was just saying, I think everyone in their own way is a medium. In their own way. Like me specifically. I don't toot any horns. I can't psychologically guess things about people, but I feel energy. When I had your ring a few months back, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but I had a lot of pains in my upper chest,
Uh-oh.
that would almost be considered what you would describe as pains you have when you have a heart attack. And they went away as soon as I gave you that ring back. I've had
Oh, yeah.
I've had stuff with Dave's things. I've sat here where I'm sitting now on my couch holding something of Dave's, and I'm just in tears
Yeah.
because I feel the energy off of it. I don't necessarily get, oh, your
Right.
spouse
Right.
of 20 years, his name was, it started with a J. I don't get that kind of feeling. I'm not
Yeah, I
that
don't do any of
intuitive
that
of it.
myself.
But I
so.
feel energies. Going out to the Renaissance Festival, I feel every time I step on those grounds, I feel an energy.
Yes.
I think everyone has a ability to have that and feel that energy. But I think that some people, because of their beliefs, are blocked off from it.
You know, it's interesting. My dad just said something to me the other day, who you're partially named after, Joseph Roberts, my dad. I was sitting down here, and Rowan and Flynn were in the chairs. They were fighting upstairs about some stupid thing, and I was really pissed off about it. And I had him down here, and I did my best standing, with my hands clasped behind my back, giving them the what for. And I felt very Captain Von Trappish from Sound of Music. It's like, I'm going to start dressing you in uniforms and referring to you with bosun whistles if you don't knock it off. And so they were down here, and I was yelling, and Flynn said something kind of flippant and sassy, and so did Rowan. And my voice immediately went to, "Excuse me? What the hell did you just say to me?"
Heard
And
that.
it was kind of like that. Only I was acting that time. It was the real thing. And I'm upbraiding him up and down. I said, when did I get degraded from being dad and father to being your buddy in the hallway at school that you can flippantly mouth off to? I said, I think you better rethink your last sentence. And so I was kind of in that tone, and my phone rings, and it's my dad. Now, I never knew this about him, but I go, "Hey, Dad." I said, "I'm in the middle of something." He goes, "I just heard you yelling." He says, "And I'm calling." I said, "What?" He said, "I heard you yelling and I'm calling." Now, my dad's 83 or 84 now. And I said, "You heard me yelling, really?" He goes, I said, "That's interesting." He says, "I've always had that thing." He didn't know what to call it. And I said, "Well, I'll have to call you back." And he told me a little bit more about it later. For all the years I've known my dad, and remember, we were estranged for many years. We didn't know each other until, because he and my mom were divorced when I was like 6 months old. Your grandpa. And I think you met him
I've never
once.
met him.
You've never met him. And
I'd love
he's
to
out
before he
out
passes. I'd love
outside
to
of
meet him.
Cincinnati. So hopefully we'll get out there and see him. Maybe you can come with us this next summer. But all of that to say, I'm still learning things about him. And that was one of the things he told me. So I don't know. Sarah, what are your thoughts on this? Some of the stuff Sam had to say.
Well, I mean, in the field, I guess I would say that would be almost borderline psychometry. Some people have a hard time even going to like antiquing or, holding objects that have that belong to other people. They
Are
feel
you
like-
smirking at that, Professor Bauer? You have a hard time going antiquing because you pick things up?
that
No,
they
yes. Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, sir. I
they
didn't mean to
say,
cut you off.
that there's some theories that some people believe that it can be inherent through genetic line, that anybody can do it. I mean, the jury's out for me, at least it's still out on what's true. They both could be true. It can go through genetic line or whatever. But I mean, everybody has the ability to be creative, create mental constructs. We have our own energetic fields in which we control what we allow into our lives and not into our lives. I mean, to me, it's suggestive that there has to be a certain type of energy stream, or whether you want to call it universal consciousness or Akashic record, or just every type of energy that exists in the universe that we have access to. And then, depending on our filters, we can process that information through our brain. So for me, I would think it would be really, really interesting, which would probably cost too much, is get certain types of people with say the same type of mediumship and put them all in a brain scanner and see what's the same.
That'd be interesting,
right?
That'd be
And
very
then
cool.
if we have the ability to create constructs like we things like religion in a way, or the way we use those ways to think, we could build on that, and
Yes.
have people develop more sensitive abilities to depending on what they're doing in that. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit earlier about you were right completely about the whole wounded heart thing.
Yeah.
We are linked through suffering and trauma, and it's like you see in the field that the people who make the best counselors are the people who have gone through those traumatic
Sure.
experiences. I'm not saying that it always or it's exclusive,
Right.
but they have the more ability to connect and kind of semi re-envision themselves in that similar type of experience, and then through training or whatever they've learned from that experience has helped people get through it, basically.
Let me ask Delaney, what do you think of that?
Well,
And welcome to the show, by the way.
Hi. If you saw my little live stream that I sent you,
I did.
what'd you think?
I thought I sat and watched it, and I thought it was interesting. I always think it's interesting to hear you talk. I'm drawn into it. I couldn't sit and make comments on it or anything like that because it was in the middle of some other things. But I watched it, and
Awesome.
ask me something specific about that, and I might be able to give you a more specific answer.
Okay.
But I think I found it pithy and perspicacious. I give it a hearty thumbs up. Other than that,
at the very end of that, when Johann's dad tapped through, I started really getting overwhelmed because he misses her hug so much. I was born dead, so I have a real deep connection already to the netherworld. And I thought I was crazy as a kid. I didn't believe it.
Maybe
and then
you were.
my grandmother, she also had a gift, ghosts talked to her and stuff too. Everyone said she was crazy, but when they started jumping on her back and pinning her to the bed and we'd have to save her, then people started believing.
Well, didn't they used to think, and if other people have some opinions on this too, didn't they used to equate people who were wizards or mediums or witches or fortune tellers or prophets with insane or being crazy people?
Yeah.
That
they did.
There was a biblical story where David played a crazy man frothing at the mouth because they wanted him to think something about him.
Right.
And so interesting. That's the things that drive us mad. I used to say when I was writing my second book, the follow-up to Nephilim on the reptilians, I was talking to an old pastor friend of mine. I said, this stuff, and I was asking questions that we've talked about on this show, that Professor, I know you've dealt with, Delaney, you've dealt with, Sarah, you've dealt with, Sam, you've probably starting to deal with. These questions that seem so much deeper to us when we're asking them, that you feel like this is the stuff that if you keep seeking this out to its bitter end, it will drive you insane. And I remember I said that to my pastor friend, and he said, well, you might be onto some things then that are real, that are the real things, which surprised me. And I'm watering the whole thing down to make it an easy story to tell. But I thought when I was thinking about all those questions about God, about origins, about all of that stuff that was tied into those books, and it was challenging my faith. It was challenging everything I knew. I thought this stuff is going to drive me mad.
Yeah.
And so
Ever since the 2017 solar eclipse, that first rip in the veil, things have really amped up with the spirit realm merging with the physical realm. And everyone has abilities in some way, shape, or form, but the ones who already had abilities, our abilities have amped up 1,000,000,000%. Okay, and these folks here, lights turn on, everyone's knocking and walking around and opening and closing doors and cabinets and stuff. I napped one time because someone woke me up out of my bed. Someone grabbed me by the leg. I thought it was my son, but someone grabbed me by the leg and shook me. I'm just like, no, don't be touching on me. Sometimes it's okay, but when you wake me up out of a dead sleep and I'm dreaming good, I'll get angry.
there is that. My friend I mentioned, Teresa St. Francis. These kids, these spirits of these kids would come to her in the middle of the night, every night. And she had to set time limits. She'd tell them, you can only come at this time of day. It's the best time of day. I got to get my sleep, because they would wake her up. And
right, because
she'd have a room full of teenagers.
Yeah,
in spirit.
Party time.
So, yeah. Professor Bauer, you haven't chimed in yet. What's on your mind?
I was going to say, I'd like to hear something
from the prof.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And Delaney was thoroughly engaged in your story there. And when you think about, you guys know me by now, so you know I'm going here. The first thing is the linguistics. What is the definition of mediumship? What exactly, how is that defined? How are you using it?
Well, I think you'd have to define medium first, and then ship is the part of the word, the suffix that we tack onto a word to denote occupation or something like that.
Capability and action.
Capability.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd agree with that.
And a medium is somebody, I don't have a strict definition. I'm going to look it up, because I would define a medium as somebody who I wouldn't necessarily call all mediums psychics, in the sense that they're not giving prophecy. They're not.
I believe that true mediums are a spiritual bridge.
A spiritual what?
A spiritual bridge of sorts.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Sarah, what do you think? How would you define mediumship?
Well, I just said it was a bridge.
You're the one that said the bridge. I'm sorry. I thought Delaney said that.
I hear you say that, but that's.
Well, I mean,
that's what I would agree with.
We were trying to link. I mean, even if you want to take it further and say it's like an interdimensional link, right? Or
it's somebody in the middle.
Yeah, some.
Middle medium. They're not
a medium.
Middleman.
You're trying to link two sides together. It's like
in
so
between.
what Sam was saying, and what you in the commercial, when you had your experience on the spirit box trying to reach Uncle Dave, the spirit box was acted as its medium. I mean, Sam has experienced through his own body on with objects that belong to Uncle Dave. He's able to feel the energy.
I've experienced. When we took apart Dave's RV, there was half a barrel that was from the late 18th to early 19th century. It was actually used to barrel.
Do you have it right there in the room where you are? Can you point your camera at it? This was Uncle David built this into his bar in his RV. And so they were selling the RV, and they asked if anybody wants this bar, and Sam said, "I'll take that."
I don't know if I can flip it around. I can show you.
There it is.
This is
the half a barrel he cut down.
And what I've done is I've taken multiple objects of Dave's and put them up on display.
This
was a cane that
altar
he carried.
to Dave.
Yes.
This was something he carried on a regular, this cane. And
with the skull on it, the skull cane. Yeah.
Yeah, so far since I brought that home, we've had spiritual activity in the house. One morning I talked to Dad about this. One morning I came out and one of the candles was not burning.
Yeah.
But I came out and it was dark in the living room. I could see it. The wick, when you blow a candle out and that little tiny bit of wick keeps burning, lets off a little bit of smoke. That's what happened that morning.
Wow.
There's a small, it's almost like a pocket watch. It's like a pocket watch, and Dave had a picture of Shakespeare and another European poem writer that I'm not sure.
A poem writer?
I found that one morning. I found that on the floor.
Oh.
Closed. And it's one of those things where it's like, I wonder, was it one of the cats? Did the cat knock it down? But
no, it's Dave.
Nothing else was knocked
What was that, Delaney?
Okay, here, and he's like, just acknowledge me every morning when you get up. Say, morning, Uncle Dave. Good night, Uncle Dave.
Yeah.
And I keep pulling my beard. I don't know why I went to that. I went to pulling my chin hair, and I ain't got no hair, nothing to pull. He said, acknowledge me every morning. Just acknowledge me.
Yeah.
Have you had any more dreams about Uncle Dave since he passed?
I haven't had any more dreams, no. But it's little things. It's like the other day I found the door wide open. I was home alone. I went to the bathroom and I came back and the door was standing open. It's little things. I've talked to my dad about this, and it's little things that you.
I have the goosebumps so bad, Sam. Just say morning, Uncle Dave. Good night, Uncle Dave. That's all he wants. He'll quit freaking out.
Well, and it doesn't. Personally, it doesn't freak me out. Honestly, it's one of those things where I notice it and I go, "Hi, Dave."
Yeah.
I know you're here.
Yeah.
And I know you're attached to me because you were somebody who loved me and I loved you.
He's giving you some special attention amongst other people and above other people that were wishing they had more
mediumship. I got to cut it, Scotty. This is important. Okay. So here now, Dave's tapping in through me right now. I can feel him. It's deep. So he's saying, whatever you guys used to eat, you and Uncle Dave had some kind of special meal, some snacks that you guys ate together. He said, make that. I don't know what he's talking about, but he's like, something we snacked on, or we had special times when we would snack on something together.
He was a gourmet chef, so I don't know of one specific meal, but we did many times bluster about his macaroni and cheese.
There you go.
It was not Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Right. This is deep. I gotta go. It's too much. Okay. He's really got a hold to me. But yeah, mac and cheese. Make something this weekend.
Dave is I'll say in death, Dave is a strong spirit, as he was.
Who are you telling? Oh, I gotta go, y'all. Bye. It's too much.
Bye, Delaney.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, and also, yes, Dave has passed on the physical realm, but the relationship still exists between you two, and you still, both ends will have to maintain it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and even my girlfriend has had experiences with Dave's stuff. Me being out of the house, there was one day she was sitting on the couch here watching TV, and Dave's cane, the one with the skull on the top, the one that he used as his Captain Morgan cane, it just tipped over. And I've done my level of trying to debunk it, of walking across the floor, jumping in front of the barrel itself to see.
I know that's the way that they will get your attention.
And I truly believe that Dave has some sort of connection to this, and that's why I like having this here. I wasn't I never planned on taking this barrel. I didn't even really know about it, other than the stories
Until the
that
day
he
we got
told
there, yeah.
while he was building it, and what he told me about it. And then when we were at the RV, I was like, I'm taking it. I'm going to do something with it. And I have loaded it with Dave's things. I have made it his memorabilia. And that is where Dave resides. He has always has a place in my heart, and he will always be with me.
Yes. I've got stuff of Dave's all around. One of these swords is a sword I got from Dave, the cork sword, right now leaning up against the basket hilt. There, I've got his costumes over there, the big pirate coat, and then his Lord High Sheriff costume.
And I got a fair amount of his costume.
I
stuff
got baldricks hanging over there. I've got a baldric with the 12 apostles on it, the powder horns on it.
I
And
think
the
of
other
everyone
one,
so far,
I've
me and
got
Dad
the
got
3
them
red
all.
coats hanging in there that came out of his storage locker. So I've got stuff with Dave all around here. I've got the sextant up over there. I got a couple little things that I added to that collection. I got one of his daggers over here. Was this? No, this is one that you got for Sam. I thought this was one of them. No, this is one that you got for Flynn. So that wasn't Dave's. But at least I don't think it was.
Well, the impression of Dave is still on your life, so that's going to remain. It becomes a part, much like those experiences. The experience of Uncle Dave.
Yes. So,
this was one that I got. This was something that I've seen many pictures of. This is something that I know he's used and carried a lot. It's just a small little dagger, but it's something that I know he used a lot, along with a few of his other things. I also have his Mason's cane, which again is leaned up against with the Morgan cane, which is for those of you who don't know, the skull cane.
Yes.
And that's another reason that we don't see why it could have fallen. They're leaned up together next to each other against the barrel.
Into the corner where the barrel meets the wall.
And the only one that fell was the Morgan cane. And that's happened, I think, 3 times since I brought that home. The Mason cane never falls. The Mason cane always stays where it is. But the Morgan cane will fall.
I'm sorry, Sam. I want to ask you, do you feel like those objects are imbued with Dave's energy?
I do. There are some days, and my girlfriend will tell you, there are some days I sit here and I just hold those objects. And I can't, it's not like I'm thinking of Dave. I'm just sitting here and I will cry.
Have you seen the movie Doctor Strange?
Long time ago, I saw that.
So there's a scene in there where Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he's in training and he's working with his mentor, and there's this whole rack of all these different like staves and chains and all kinds of different weapons that are hanging there. And Benedict asks, he says, well, when do I get my weapon? He says, you don't select it, it selects you. And that they had imbued some of these magical entities and powers into these objects because they weren't for any one man. They were to be used through the object by the man. So when you were talking about the canes and one fell, one stays, you hold them, you spend time with them, you interact with them. That was the imagery that came to my mind, was we can embed our energies into objects. And you can look all throughout the theological histories, all the Western, the Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, Islam, the Jews, which are really Hebrews, not Jews, but you
Right.
look at all of those just in that, and there's a boatload more in the Hindu, Buddhism, and even Confucianism. So there's this long history that we have with objects and energy, and it seems to have some regular characteristics. They become special primarily, from what I've seen, the majority of it seems to be for, through an individual. There are others that are geographical or have been put on, the energy's been put on by decree of the savants and the monks and the prayers and the incantations. So that was the imagery I was getting while you were expressing that. And I think going back to the point of mediumship, what is it? I think it's the wrong word. Imagine that.
What do you think it should be?
Well, if you think about what are the characteristics of what are described as mediumship or being a medium, which is why I asked the question to begin with. What does that look like? What does that sound like? What happens when that is going on that you've applied that word with that definition to?
Well,
and the majority of it, at least there's multiple realms of the psychic, being a psychonaut myself in consciousness and poking around from the ethereum to the materium. Wait a minute. How you go, Sarah?
The ethereum to the, yes.
And then when he's done, I want to say something, and I'll let Sam go.
Oh, okay. Now, thanks for covering for me. I'm going to end quick now.
Okay.
This whole idea of the energetic aspects and characteristics and nature of consciousness is a frequency set. That frequency set is what we are. We are a unique frequency stamp, signature from this consciousness. Conscious creates energy. Conscious is always in motion. Energy is always in motion. There seems to be a constant creation thing going on, ergo and expansion and evolution. At a minimum, some type of creation. Even thinking is creation. Having these experiences that you've been talking about, Sam, with Dave's objects, that's a moment of creation that's happening in your mind. Just by the thought and the imagery, you're setting aside a stamp in the cosmos, in the frequency sets.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you something in that?
Oh yeah.
Are you
if it made any sense?
It's a consciousness of, oh, I'm thinking about it, so it's just on my mind and it's happening, or are you saying it's a consciousness of you can see it beyond the regular box of what humans see?
The act of both knowing and seeing are what's making it real in your reality.
Okay, I can fully respect that.
Because you have an experience because you're always in experience mode, if you can put it that way. Experience mode is always, it's not the now, it's the next. When you think about our experience, the now is fleeting. It happens it's that snapshot, boom, next. We are always in the next, not the now. So when as each one of those conscious experiences, whether viscerally and physically or metaphorically and mentally, they can be separate, they can be blended, they can be bolts from the blue. And those are the ones that are some of the most fascinating, that I think intrigues us, because at a minimum, it kicks off our curiosity, which then jumps into the field of imagination. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's going on in here? But I think that there's been, which is why I asked at the beginning, what the definition of mediumship is. And through that long little ramble there, I'm coming back and saying, I think a more appropriate term for it is, at a minimum, channeling, but more specifically, it's an interaction in the interface. It's a tap into those frequency fields that are always there, whether you know they are or not. And for whatever reason, you've had that connection, and it happens. I think a lot of, if you think about people like Blavatsky or Casey, even Steiner, even mediums apparently tap into, or the act of being a medium and being in that state. Apparently, you're able to tap into a whole shitload of information, whether it was the past, the present, whether it's local or non-local, and even the future. And I think the future is really the result of just looking at the trend lines of the vibes of the frequencies. You can see where things are kind of going, and we use it from a Materium perspective because that's our main sensory information source, is our body. We hear, we smell, we taste, we see. The physical experience of reality is primarily through this biological sensory system. So, but as I've said before, that includes the brain. The brain is not where the mind is. It's not where the intellect and the thinking is. It's not where any of that activity is. The brain is the neurological organ, just like the heart is the blood organ and the stomach is the digestion organ. It's an organ to animate the materium, our carbon-based meat suits. And it interfaces with our mind, that's the eternal part, because it's a part of consciousness.
Going into what you're saying is, if the brain is the interface between our physical world and our spiritual world, what is a medium? Is a medium somebody who uses more than 10% of their brain?
No. Don't think about it from. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but don't think about it from a physical perspective. Okay. The reason I was saying what I was talking about is that the animation that we experience in our physical sense and experience is from our mind. It's from the energy that is our consciousness, that is our unique frequency signature in the field of energy, which is created by consciousness. Boom, boom, boom. It's that simple to me. And that's just based on observation and experience. So,
and
you don't have to
challenging that, but where's the box for that observation and experience?
There is no box.
That release into other things. That's where from some of what my dad has taught me and from some of what I've learned on my own is where is the physical box of our physical realm and our mental realm? How deep does it go? Are we simply from a single creator? Are we from space? It goes all into that. What are we meant to do? Who are we? What is our meaning in life? It goes, to me personally, it goes deeper. It's you look at the box and you say there's this, and this, but you look outside the box and there's
that and that.
It's seeing the effect of connection, and you sometimes you being your father's son, or like what Scotty was saying about his dad calling when he was having a fit. So, it's like the universe is a glass and you were tapping into it or plucking those invisible strings, the red strings of fate or whatever you want to call it. It's the connections that we feel, the vibration, resonance that resonate off of it. And because things change. If nothing ever changed, then, how do we...
It'd be the same rhythm.
Connection? Yeah, it would be the same. We'd all be the same beat.
So...
to get back to what before we lose it,
Mhm.
the whole Doctor Strange analogy. I was drawn to another scene is when he was trying to learn how to use the sling ring.
Oh
And
yeah.
that can be seen as a type of a mediumship. He's learning to train his brain, or
Sure.
through whatever means. If they threw him on top of a mountaintop and said, "You're either going to learn or die,"
Yep.
trying to kick in that
Some
whole
tough love right there.
right. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's the accessing that sense of self-preservation. Hopefully, it's strong enough to overcome. But for some, people, they believe that's the way you can also train mediumship. I mean, I'm not saying it to that extreme, but through
I'm
our
gonna grab something
experiences
there.
and building on it. So, I mean, yes, you have experiences that you're having in your home, and automatically you're attributing it to Uncle Dave rather than something else. Or
I'll be honest, I question everything.
Yeah.
Everything that happens, I question it. The finding the medallion on the floor. Was it the cat? Did the cat jump up on there and knock something over? But then I sit there and I question, well, nothing else there has been disturbed. Everything else is where it's supposed to be. The only thing that's misplaced is this one object.
Right. So
That's where I question everything that happens, but
and you're gonna drive yourself nuts doing that.
Well, and,
But, I
and
mean,
my point,
it's important because you have to find
Go ahead.
balance in what you are questioning and again, like what you choose to accept or not accept,
Absolutely.
into your life. If you want to say it's Uncle Dave, then for you, it's Uncle Dave. I mean, you don't have to justify it to anybody else or anybody on the outside. What matters is the experience and what it means to you.
Absolutely.
Because that's what the experience was for. It wasn't for us, we can say, oh, okay, it can be 10 million things. But what matters most is that what that experience meant to you, what it triggered within you, what resonates inside you.
Mhm.
I mean, if it resonates Uncle Dave, then for you, it's Uncle Dave,
Absolutely.
and it's more proof of the connection that you had shared.
And just to tag on what you're saying there, Sarah, because it ties into what I was saying.
It happens on occasion.
Yeah, imagine that. If you go back to what I was saying as far as a description, just the energetic imprint of the individual happens wherever you go, whatever you do, whatever you touch. The more intention that is put into that and how that intention is configured and how you think about it and how much focus you put on it, how much effort and energy you put on it, it manifests more than those that don't. It's just kind of logical. Wherever you put your energy is where the stuff's going to happen. So if Dave, the objects that you have from Dave, I mean, those were his energy. He used them all the time. He was intending with them every time he was being with them, whether he was doing it intentionally from, very focused and perspective or subconsciously.
Yes.
Because you can grab something, you can be with something, you can have an experience that's on a very subtle, what people typically would refer to as a subconscious level. But that's just the way it works. There's no magic there. There's no construct in a theology, philosophy, or even science that explains it. But that's what happens. Now, to Sarah's point, if you're thinking about Dave when you're interacting with those objects and those having those experiences and moments, then that's the connection for you. It could have been anything else. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if both you and your dad have an object of Dave's and you both react to it similarly, but very different.
Yeah.
There's a very personal resonance that occurs because of your energy and experience with that individual. But that's just the mechanics of it. What Sarah is saying is that having that
Mansplaining.
I'm mansplaining. Or no, she's trying to. Having that intention and focus is what will work for you. But as you said, you have an open mind. Be open to thinking about it in different ways. Because one of the things that Sarah's saying as well, and correct me, please, Sarah, if I get it wrong.
Oh, you know I will.
But it is the intent. I'm counting on it. Bail me, girl. It's the intent and the focus which you have in your mind that is your choice. So the whole discussion and learned debate and scholarly discourse about do we have free will or not? I know some people I think have just extremely high intellects. And they just say, nope, it's not only is it not free will, but we live in a simulation.
Yeah.
Simulation theory has come up a lot. But another thing to also consider is that we as living beings, we give off energy, whether we mean to or not, whether we throw a mood. And our physical reality is, through the passage of time, goes through energetic layers. It's like how some people believe that they can see past into history.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they go through a reenactment and they, experience, like chest pain.
Very visceral, intense experience. Yeah.
Right. Intense experiences. So many cultures, they have their own version of trying to how to deal with that energetic world. It's like an onion, as we're passing through time. So, I mean, in magical circles, you have things such as binding energy or releasing of energy. It's all part of that whole manipulation of that energy, those constructs of we're constantly building, destroying, that sort of thing. To even use myself as an example, when my dad died, and as time goes on, the people that knew him are dying too. So eventually it's going to come to a point where nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
So
I think of that quite often. Sam and I had that conversation when we were down, invited to come down and go through Dave's stuff in his storage lockers and his RV and stuff. And I said to Sam, that thing, there's a particular thing Sam and I were talking about. And I said, that thing will go onto somebody's bookshelf or into somebody's box of memories or something. And the person who's got it is going to probably within 20 years will be gone. Probably. And that thing, I said, is either going to pass on to somebody else, and that next person they'll be 2 steps removed from where it came from, and so on. And I said, eventually it's going to be in somebody's trash heap, or it's going to be burned, with the rubbish, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. So we get so far removed from these things that we have, let's say there's the psychometry that's involved, things you pick up in an antique store. Let's say this dagger is actually 400 years old, and it starts exhibiting energy of some form, or it's something you can trace back to it. I've probably got things in my collection of junk around here, my Egyptian cabinet over there full of little artifacts and bits of junk. And
Scotty, you even wrote a book on it, in The Sword and the Clay.
Yes. I did.
Yeah. And so I mean, even like, you consider the most mundane of objects, like your bed. You spend maybe a third of your life in your bed. Once you pass, it's like, doesn't anybody get creeped out of sleeping in a dead person's bed? I mean, there's
a part of me that would, and there's a part of me that would just go, it's just a bed.
Well, the mattress, at least, the mattress part.
Right.
We are constantly, imbuing our footprint, our energetic footprint into things. And, some people have the ability, or claim to have the ability, to tap into that, to see that in like a form of stone tape theory, or, they're about to pick up an object and, not even through a cold reading, or, see what type of life a person has lived, like the pocket watch. If it was something that was scratched up on the outside? Was it in a pocket that always held many keys and coins in it? It gives you glimpses of what the personality of the person who had it had.
Sarah, I've had that inclination and been drawn to that for a long time. One of the most profound experiences I have is when I go to archaeological sites.
Yes.
I've been down to Chaco Canyon. I've been to Mesa Verde down here in the Southwest. And I mean, they're ancient and they're really not understood other than they're there. But I've had these glimpses of being there when it was being active, when people were using it.
Sure.
And they're just like little fleeting, sometimes even just a sense that something was going on over here, or this is what they did when they were, in the Kiva. So that, to me, I want to explore that more and develop it more, because it clearly happens to me. And I'm like, well, apparently I'm drawn to that. I have a resonance with it that I should go explore.
Right.
I have some of that when I've been to Egypt at John and Maria's site, Gebel El Silsila.
And there's also, history of, ancient sites of power, not just, in the terms of ley lines or the rose line or whatever you want to call it. The people get attracted to different types of energies. Every time I leave the house, if I go to a different area, like being at home versus being in New York or in the desert or, wherever at holy sites, I mean, the energy is completely different, and you can sense it. The body senses it. It's like it's a.
I have wondered if like I just went and put this coat on. This is that pirate coat of Dave's that I got, and it's I put it on the show before to show it off, and it's a long coat. You can see the tails are very long in the back. It's a long pirate coat. I'm probably off camera there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're here. You're in the middle.
And so it's stuff like this. And I put this on, and I sometimes think, by having these things around, am I going to attract it? Because he had so much energy. And there you go. There's Sam. That's the Captain Morgan. This kind of went with that. But Dave wore that before he made this coat much later. It's actually got the same buttons on this that are on that Sam is wearing. But I wear these, and I wonder, is this going to have some of the energy of Dave in it? And I don't know that for sure.
Well, whether it does or not, I mean, you have to consider, what does that coat do for you? Does it give you comfort? Right. I mean, if things take a dark turn at Sam's place, you call Dad. Come take care of it. I mean, yeah. I mean, or there's things that could be done, but it's for you, it's a matter of comfort. Not the fact that it was Dave's thing, right, or whatnot. And I just totally, even for me being here, whenever we have Captain's Cabin and good conversation, I miss Uncle Dave.
You do. I still do.
Yeah.
And frankly, Uncle Dave not being here is still relatively new.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still moved by the realization of his absence.
Yeah.
And so that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice having Uncle John on,
Yes, I haven't seen him for a little bit.
Yeah, he's family. He's part of Uncle Dave's family, but I mean, it's still, still that twinge. It's not exactly the same because Uncle Dave had his own thoughts and personality.
Right.
Yeah, and he usually agreed with me, which is so rare. I was like, Dave, dude, you're leaving me hanging here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm off camera. I'm just hanging this thing back up. So
you sound like you're in the bathroom about ready to use the loo.
Oh, is that the tonal quality of my of the echo here? Yeah, when I step away from my mic's directional, so I have to be sitting here for it to pick up everything. So, but yeah.
Well, Sam, I don't know if any of the explanation that I gave you was helpful, but the idea, To me, what it seems like one of the difficult things we get stuck in is a definition of a box. People give us a box and say, this is where this stuff goes, and this is how you use the stuff in the box. This is where you store the box. I mean, there's just, one rule after another of the way that we think about and we experience and think about our lives. And the majority of it is complete crap. I'm just going to call it like it is.
I understand where you're coming from.
The theologies, the religions, the belief systems, the philosophies back in, before Descartes in the 1700s, all philosophy included the theoretical, the religious, and the scientific. Everything was in the category of philosophy. So if you were a philosopher, you studied all that shit, math, science, natural science.
I would even take it a step further and say logic is a form of box.
It's a process, yeah.
Well,
I mean, as far as...
For me personally, I grew up with a very... Dad, he went to priesthood. He studied all of this. He's gone to Egypt. He's written books on it.
And look at him now.
Look at the outside of the box type of thing. And then with my mother, I grew up in a very, like you were saying, this is the box and nothing excludes the box. This is the box and this is where things are. This is what it is and this is how it is. She was a very religious woman, but it was only a religion is used to my perspective type of person. And I think that's where I learned to look to my dad a lot more about how I believe in things. Not specifically because I agree with everything that he says and does.
I was going to ask Sam, how's that working out for you?
But he has completely taught me to look outside of the box of things, look deeper, look at the deeper meaning of this, that, and the other.
My thing is that once you know that there's something outside
linear action and consequential thinking, that A plus B gives you product C. We Absolutely. Have to think in a almost in like a fractal sense, or even.
Well, it's a process model, but going back to your point, Sam, once I realized that the box was something that was given to me, or offered to me, and I either took it or it was shoved down my throat. That's when the liberation started happening. It's Absolutely. Like, wait a minute, it doesn't change any of my experiences that nobody can answer. And those that know about question my sanity, my capability, my relevance to reality and humanity. I've been the black sheep wearing the tinfoil hat for 40 years. Absolutely. And now I'm getting calls. I'm getting emails. Hey, what do you know about this? You used to talk about this shit. Seems like there's some of this stuff going down. What do you know? And that was because I was able, fortunately, it was through a very painful process, but I was able to shed the framework and the filters and the boxes and the bags and all the crap that I was given on what my reality and my experience is supposed to be. You can't talk about mediumship or psychic abilities or anything that of that realm. That's the crazy talk. You can't talk about anything that questions the official narrative. That's conspiracy theories. You can't question the fundamental foundation of your existence through this religion that we've told you. Because if you don't, you're out. You're going to this deep, dark place, this deep, very light place where it burns all the time. And I looked at all those and I said, all this shit is nothing but a bunch of control mechanisms designed to keep me in the herd. Because each one I went after, I found more information that was contradictory and even more full, more complete than any of those boxes I was given. It was... Yeah. It was like an exploration of reality and self without the constraints of somebody's siloed knowledge box and say, okay, well, what's outside the box? And once I stepped on that line, been on
all of this reminds me of, and I wanted to bring this up much earlier, so the context isn't quite as strong as it was a little earlier in the conversation. But I have this book that I read a while back called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. Excellent, excellent book. I'm going to read you the inside of the flyleaf on this. The description: 2 magicians shall appear in England. The first shall fear me. The second shall long to behold me. The year is 1806. England is beleaguered by the long war with Napoleon, and it's hundreds of years since practical magic faded into the nation's past. But scholars of this glorious history suddenly discover that the practicing magician still remains the reclusive Mr. Norrell of Herfew Abbey. Challenged to demonstrate his powers, Norrell causes the statue of York Cathedral to speak and sing, and sends a thrill through the country. The magician proceeds to London, trailed by excited rumors, where he raises a beautiful young woman from the dead, and finally enters the war, summoning an army of ghostly ships to terrify the French. Yet Norrell is soon challenged by the emergence of another magician, the brilliant novice Jonathan Strange. Young, handsome, and daring, Strange is very opposite of the cautious, fussy Norrell. Still, Norrell agrees to take Strange as a pupil, and the young magician joins England's cause, enduring the rigors of Wellington's campaign in Portugal to lend the army his supernatural skill on the battlefield. But as Strange's powers grow, so do his ambitions. He becomes obsessed with the founder of English magic, a shadowy 12th century figure known as the Raven King. In his increasingly reckless pursuit of the wildest, most perilous forms of magic, Strange risks sacrificing not only his partnership with Norrell, but everything else that he holds dear. Elegant, witty, and flawlessly detailed, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is a magisterial first novel that draws readers into Suzanne Clark's fantasies and blah, 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 convincing view of history in the past. And so it's a very interesting book when you're talking about, we're not necessarily talking about magic, but we're talking about those supernatural abilities, those things.
Well, Scotty, that is a perfect segue into the point of what is magic.
Look, it's crushed between the...
Nice.
That is crushed between the pages. Oh, I just knocked it out of there because I dropped the book. There you go.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Now, I don't even remember where that came from. I bought this book a long time ago. So
probably been in there for a long time.
It's at the heading of chapter 15. How is Lady Pole is the name of the chapter. So I have no idea why
she must be stoned. And one of the points I was going to make about, what's the definition of magic, right? Magic is one of those words that immediately strikes you with, depending on your definition of it.
Yes.
It has a visceral, mental, cognitive experience when you think of the word magic, because depending on what magic you think about when you think of magic, there's the big delineations. There's, the artificial or the phony magic. There's the Harry Potter, which is the, ethereal magic. Mm-hmm. And you have the illusory magic. But all magic, when you look at any of the grimoires and the alchemical writings of, various thinkers during that time, the key ingredient, which is also the key ingredient in the classical music that was written,
yes,
is intention.
Yes.
So on the musical side, when Beethoven, Bach, and Franz Liszt and all these guys were writing this stuff, they were also mathematicians and alchemists.
Yes.
So if you look at their scores of all this incredible music that they wrote, because they wrote it by hand within an inkwell on a piece of paper, which is a lost art in and of itself. But when they notated the sense or the feel, they would use things like affect, the German version of the word affect, which means to enhance. And if you go through all of these scores, you'll find that they used alchemical terms throughout the writing of the music. And the music was extremely mathematical, but it was also based on harmony, tempo, and all those things. So magic is really something that is intentionally caused by the expression and interaction of the frequency sets that you focus on. And that applies to everything, including the things that you were talking about, Sam, the items from Dave and your experience with them. That's an intention. That's an energetic interaction and a focus that is giving you that experience.
There it is. Claudette speaks of these, which we've talked about quite often, Professor, in different tones, and you too, Sarah. These DNA strands are some of the reasons for our amnesia. I believe some have awakened strands that were long asleep.
Well, you remember that I mentioned a few weeks back, I think, the Homo sapien chromosomes of what we are is 23 pairs. All other primates that have the same construct, the same humanoid construct that we have 24.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. They're all even. We're the only ones that are odd.
That's interesting.
Gene number 2, and this is all according to the genetic science that was done with the Genome Project back at the turn of the millennium. All of it has been, they've been able to determine that they don't know most of it. They can't know most of it because they can't see where it goes or what it does or what it affects. All the projections, which is why there was a big hype and a big market of the Human Genome Project at, the turn of the millennium. And there was billions poured into it. And the results were that they couldn't, at best, they thought that they'd be able to find the markers for height, for color of hair.
And couldn't.
And they were hitting 10 to 15% accuracy. It wasn't there. They couldn't find it. So I can't remember the guy's name, but his famous quote in business, the CEO of, I think it was Genentech, but whoever the big company was at the time, he said, "I'm the only one who's has become a millionaire the easy way from being a billionaire." Because they were at $69 one day, and then when all this data and research came out, they dropped below $1.
Interesting.
In a single day. So the genome aspect, in my opinion, is science, and particularly biological science, looking in the wrong place for the wrong thing, for the wrong reason. The morphogenic resonance, and I know Sarah is going to have something to say about this. The morphogenic resonance, which is Sheldrake's concept of memory in nature, I think has got more to do with it, and they don't look for that. In fact, he's the big heretic, isn't he, Sarah?
To some, but I mean, gene expression, to go on that, it's not simple. It's not like you can look at one section on a DNA strand and said, this is where height is, or this is where blue eye.
Yeah, they proved that.
It's a complex process. And I'm just going to throw this out there, that there are some theories that they're out there that the Y chromosome is actually a broken X. So maybe, I don't know, I may be a little bit more genetically advanced than all of you.
You got a broken Y?
A broken X chromosome.
Broken X, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a broken X? That's what a Y is?
But no, I almost lost it. But not even on a morphogenic resonance sort of way, which I'll take a semi-left turn. If you look at history of familiar lines, like Scotty, I'm sure if you go back in your history, you'll find people who are similar to you, like
I'm
who
sure.
are artistic, who may have been writers or artists, or there
My
seems
dad is very artistic, which I didn't
Yeah.
know until I was an adult.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so there's something that's being passed down that seems to be even beyond, just gene expression, because, whenever DNA mixes, you're mixing it with someone from the outside through marriage, right? I mean, it's constantly being not polluted, but I mean, watered down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain things that still maintain themselves through the family line. So there has to be something that we just don't understand.
So, Sarah,
that is being passed down, where the science isn't there yet.
So, Sarah, to that point, the difference between heredity, environmental heredity, and genetic heredity. What's your thoughts there?
I mean, they're both at least linked, because based on whatever gene expression you have, it's how you're going to react to the environment, right? They did studies with most simple of creatures like worms, who they did a study. It was like with, I think, extreme cold temperatures, and and then they moved. They grew them to through several generations, and the one generation that was exposed to cold temperatures, I think even 10 generations down, that have never been exposed to that, still had the ability to retain it, even though that specific gene expression has never been used within 10 generations or more.
So what you're saying is that even if there was no genetic connection after the initial experience with one generation, that manifested 10 generations later?
Yes.
So so that removes any genetic influence, right?
Right.
So how do you explain that characteristic showing up so many generations later?
Well, I mean, that's the area that that we had that needs to definitely.
Well, that's morphogenic resonance.
Yeah.
Right. So does Sheldrake's? I mean, he's got some amazing stuff, including the Consciousness Mind, and he's got a Science of New Belief, which is his first book, which is about morphogenic resonance. He's got several other books. A lot of lectures online. Highly recommend. I mean,
I've listened to them, and I mean, mentally, I struggle with Sheldrake. I mean, there's certain things I'm like, yeah, I can believe that, but I mean, I'm not just sipping the Kool-Aid. I'm not chugging it, glugging it down. So.
Well,
right,
he is.
Right.
He does serve it up with reverence and respect from stating it. It is from his own research and his own opinions. But the thing I like about him is he's one of the few out there that are approaching all of the subjects with questions. He's asking, why does this? Well, here's the explanation that we give. Well, yeah, but it leaves out things like we just talked about. The current biological, the neurosciences, genetic sciences, all that stuff that's going on in officialdom is looking for the wrong thing in the wrong place for the wrong reason, as I've said. That's why they can't find an answer to the question that we just asked. How can something, some characteristic and trait, transfer down the line to completely separate genetic animals? Okay, and there's a whole bunch of rat studies done on this. So there is because science, like the theologies, which are about to go through a major shift, science is based on a grit model of materialistic and mechanistic stuff. That's the grit, the atom. It's all based on this pile of sand that has all these magical manifestations that they can't explain, but they mathematically model, and they go, well, we think that look kind of what we're observing must look like this, but you can't prove the equation or the formula.
I think science will only take us so far, and then it's like you said, you're going to have to develop a new model, or even a more development in a metaphysical model. It's like, some people were saying for years, the coming of the age of Aquarius,
Right.
The whole for us to understand the entire picture and take in the entirety, you're going to have to be, like what Sam was talking about earlier, you have to be open to it. I mean, even sometimes that even means taking in the absurd, what we would consider at one point absurd, which may be true. I mean, even in the Bible, it talks about, when you if you have faith of a mustard seed, you can do, you can move mountains, or put a mulberry tree in the middle of the ocean, or whatever that was. So I mean, to have that level of creativity, you have to definitely throw logic out the window, right? I mean, to be able to accomplish something.
I mean,
innovation. If you look at innovation, it's anybody who innovates is looking outside the norm, outside the box. Creativity, it's taking baby steps versus getting, and like you were saying about religion and stuff, religion and cultures, empires rise and fall. We go through ages. We're through the passage of time. So I mean, for all we know, 5,000 years on now, Christianity could be considered an old religion, the way we consider, the Greeks. Or
oh my dear, I'm just going to go ahead, and because you said that, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to drop this little turd on the table. I'm going to make a prediction, a prognostication, a projection, a premonition, even, because I feel like I've seen this for at least 25 years.
Are they lottery numbers?
Yeah.
If they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And that is this.
To that resonance for lottery numbers. Somebody has to figure it out.
Give me those numbers. I know they're vibing out there for me somewhere.
Fortune cookie.
On the religion, well, let me start with the science. On the science side, everything is going to change dramatically because of the exposure of information and technologies that have been around for at least 80, or if you look at the real history, thousands of years. We are going to have all the water, all the energy, and all the communication we want in devices that fit in the palm of our hand. Now, that's about 10 years out. It's off the bench. It works. It is there. And rolling it out into production is going to be extremely disruptive, as you could imagine. All of a sudden, the infrastructures for power and water and communication, they're obsolete. So you got to roll the stuff out so that it causes a lot of chaos, or more than you want. But sciences are falling apart. Their track record in the last 3 or 4 years in all domains has been abysmal. They would be fired for performance like this from a business, a private business, or a business owner.
That's the truth.
Okay. I mean, there's the level of incompetence has been nothing short of spectacular. So all sciences are going to, in fact, the education system, the media system, all this shit is going to change radically because all the infrastructure and all the beginning components of it are already in place, and they're moving quickly. Getting the old stuff out of the way is the only real impediment right now. And
so succinctly, what is the catalyst that begins that, or that makes that finally click over?
It's what Well, as far as a clickover point, I don't know that there's going to be necessarily a group global awareness
Just
of a
an
click.
evolution.
I think it's going to
So
be
to
more
speak.
isolated and more focused on, going through. It basically, the energy is here. It's whether you are aware of it and tune into it or not. And that's where you have those that are misinformed, uninformed, the sleeple, the sheeple, the indoctrinated. And it's like, and they say in the Matrix, when Morpheus was telling Neo, said, when you go in there, you got to remember that not everybody wants to be unplugged. In fact,
Yeah.
they are so dependent on the plug that they will fight and defend themselves to keep it. When you think about the mental cages and boxes and all of the crap that's been wrapped around our global society, it has been extremely, as we've talked about many times, it's been extremely intentionally manipulated, carefully crafted and curated, and tossed into the conversation. And you talk about putting turds on the table. They are shitting on everything because all you have to have is a modicum of a reasonable common sense and bullshit meter. And that's just being, open to the resonance, like you were talking about earlier, Sam. If you're open-minded and you are paying attention to what information is available, you will tune into these resonances and these frequencies, and you go, that I like that, or I'm not so sure about that, to there's no way that. Because that's how we work. That's how consciousness, how our experience is. So sciences are going to go away because a whole bunch of new shit is going to be revealed that they've been holding on to. That's going to cause a whole bunch of pissed off peeps. People are going to go, wait a minute, we could have a totally different world now. If you released this shit 70, 80 years ago,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have all of this crap. So there's going to be a whole bunch of pissed off peeps in that regard.
Well,
I
I like
agree.
to look at the other aspect of what you said too is releasing this stuff however long ago, it means one thing. In 100 years, is the science that we know today actually science?
Well, that's it.
No, that's my
Is
point.
anything that we know, is anything that is our reality? Is it
Quantum mechanics, quantum theory, quantum physics, all the way back through just the standard models. And I've been engaged with
It's all theoretical.
several people.
It's all theoretical.
Yeah, the thing is that anytime you talk to somebody who says, "I know physics," or the models, you just ask them some very simple questions. Has Einstein's general and/or special relativity ever been empirically proved? Is there evidence?
No.
I think so.
And no, there isn't. There isn't.
There's
models
the big
and there's
black hole
math.
thing a couple of years ago.
Yeah. If you look, and here's the other thing. This is going to be the biggest downfall of the sciences. There's been several studies, and the average is over 50% of anything that has been in a approved journal, academic journal, and has been published and peer-reviewed in the journals. And this spans all disciplines, archaeology, nanotechnology, doesn't matter. All of it. Over 50% of the peer-reviewed published papers could not be replicated.
And that goes into what I said of, do we actually know what we know about science?
Our science is broke.
Exactly.
Our academic and education system is broke. Our media is broke.
Well,
our government is broke.
It's
our
like I have
communities
contended
are
for a
broke.
long time. Science can certainly be, and I know those who are scientists will disagree for the most part, but science tends to be a surrogate for religion, for spirituality.
Well, I would say that science has become scientism, just like the religions have. And I'll finish this real quick and then turn it over to you, sir, because this is specifically going to be interesting to you. Sciences are going away. bunch of shit's being exposed as wrong, and a whole bunch of new stuff is being exposed as, gee, look what we got. So there's going to be that in and itself is going to crumble the scientific institutional model. The next one is the religious one, theology. Particularly, well, so there's 4 or 5 major belief systems around the world. The Abrahamic, which is Christian, Judaism, and Islam, are the 3 Western primarily. And then you have Hinduism and Buddhism from the Southeast Asia region. And you have Taoism and Confucianism in China, and a whole bunch of Zoroastrianism. I mean, a whole bunch of little offshoots and so forth. When you look at the characteristics of each, what do they have in common? Well, they all seem to have some, and I'm talking about the Western right now, the monotheistic, not Jainism or Hinduism or Taoism, because they're the exact opposite. But what's common among these Western belief systems? Throw in the Roman Catholic Church, because they're in the Christianity section, right? What do they have in common?
God and a set of rules.
Well, and more specifically, what I'm looking for is they have a personality. There is an entity that is some kind of person. They have a name. They kind of show up corporeally, or have in various versions and iterations. So anytime you have a personality-based theology, you're going to have a lot of questions.
Well, I mean, don't you think
And he takes a drink.
anthropomorphization is just an expression of self?
No, it's a projection. When you anthropomorphize something, you are projecting a human construct and characteristics to it
onto something that is normally not.
A great one that Sheldrake has said, and I think is spot fucking on, is that we are told that there are laws of physics, laws of the universe, laws of the materials, of the minerals, of the stuff that we are in. And the problem that all of these different disciplines are having is that their research is finding that it's not quite like that. There's something else going on. That's one of the reasons that dark energy and dark matter got tossed on as a theory, and which is completely unproven. There is no evidence. In fact, theoretically and mathematically, there's a bunch of questions. But the reason they came up with dark energy and dark matter is they were observing something that didn't fit the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory was that boom, from nothing. And one of the easy questions to ask them is, so what was there before the nothing? Where was this thing at, this infinite density and itself, its eternal self? Where did that come from? Well, as Terence McKenna said, current science is give us one free miracle and we'll explain the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the Big Bang, I see it, as also a form of resonance. The Big Bang, Big Crunch, everything crunches down to a single point singularity, and then blows up again, back and forth. It's what some people believe that we see not resonance but residue from different dimensions.
Well, and to that point, and I'm sorry that I forgot and let you interrupt me to what I was finishing, but I was going to tie it to this. The reason that the religions, particularly the Western religions, are going to probably disappear in the next 10, 20 years is the whole space alien thing, our origins thing. Once our origins have additional information, which is already written in the old books and the old stories. Mm-hmm. Okay. Once that gets validated, it's going to be authenticated. There's going to be a little transparency, a little accountability, the stuff that doesn't exist anywhere else. Then the religions are just going to fall apart because they're going to realize that all these, the persons of power and pontification that have been, lofted into or created or whatever. Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, all of that is going to be flattened because it's going to be exposed as, yeah, we kind of didn't give you all the story, but you were faithful and you wrote it down or we told you what we wanted you to know, and you wrote it down best you could because your framework, the people in the framework and their mental framework at that time, their intelligence, emotional, survival, instinctual intelligence, all of those were developing and coming in. That's a part of the experience of consciousness, of learning. As that's one of you asked why we're here. I think that's why we're here, to go through that evolutionary development of that frequency stamp that we are, because we're always moving too, because consciousness and energy is always moving. So we're always creating. We're always in motion to the next. And that is how I navigate the reality that I bounce around in.
Speaking of motions to the next, we're moving to the end of this show because we're way over time for tonight.
Wait a minute, I don't remember getting as much time as I did last time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next time. So we you can call that an evolution or a devolution, but we're meandering, rambling ever so proficiently to the end of the show.
Before you shut it off, I would like to get Sarah's thoughts on what I just said about the demise of religions.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, possible. Like everything comes to its, everything that's created will eventually be destroyed. Right. But I mean, but in terms of religion, it's also a matter of perspective, much like science. It's perspective and how we try to navigate our experiences and explain away, the interactions of energetic constructs within we have, like within our body, or the experience that we have. We try to explain it. Oh, it's through science. It's God. It's all a matter of perspective. And how
and the thing is on the religion,
navigate it all. I mean,
and the thing is on the religion front is once we've got these space alien things that has either at a minimum that they're there, and we go, well, we've been told that's bullshit for how long, so they got that wrong, or at worst they were deviant in their skullduggery and obfuscation. But that means that all these belief systems, and particularly the Western, all the heads are bullshit at a minimum. And you go, well, the whole thing about Jesus and born again was bullshit.
Well, I mean,
the whole thing about Muhammad and having the type of heaven that he described, bullshit. The whole thing with the Jews, and this is where it's going to be bad, in my opinion. The whole Hebrew belief system is the one that's going to crash and burn the worst, because the others are kind of based on them. If you look at the Torah, the Talmud, and all that, that's where the Book of Islam, the Holy Bible, all the different delineations of that, that's where all that shit comes from.
And Christianity, just a second.
But the thing is, that's a big if.
No.
Well, it certainly is a big if, but I'm looking at I'm looking down the line and doing trend analysis on the energies, and I'm going, this is going to end up in a big pile of shit, because the data is just adding up on a regular basis.
No matter how much data you have,
go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
Data that a person's faith and religion, they will believe over science.
Oh, absolutely.
It's hard to break a person's faith. If a person has faith in something, you cannot deter them from any other viewpoint or standpoint. They have faith in what they have faith in.
That's why I mentioned the Morpheus quote from The Matrix about, you got to remember, some of these people do not want to be unplugged because they want to be plugged, and they will fight to stay plugged. So you have to be cognizant that that's just not their time for, what's going on now. They need to stay where they are. You just
And
have
all
to
of-
keep them on the radar and make sure you know what they're doing.
And all of that to say, going back to what I said, of all of it's made up. Who are you to say what your faith or his faith or her faith, or who's right, who is truly plugged in, who is truly unplugged, who is the right messenger,
And
who
does it
has
matter?
the right information?
What was
We
that,
won't
Sarah?
know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also whoever's right and wrong, does it matter? Does being right or wrong matter? And I mean, it's like
If nothing is
Me
right or
ver-
nothing is wrong, then none of it
right.
matters.
So I mean, it's like me versus Professor Bauer. It's like I choose to have a perspective. We're not heading to a dystopian future. Try to
Yep.
see the small kernel of good in people, and hopefully, that we work out for the best, even though the reality seems to be pointing into the wrong direction. I mean, we could be entering into a death of technological age, and we're thrown into nuclear winter, or
that's definitely
novel.
That's definitely, a possibility. It's something that is one of the possibilities and probabilities or potentialities before they become probable out there. But I think, that we're really about to see a turn of energies that's going to blow people away. And we're going to see an amazing opportunity to rebuild planet Earth. And I would have thought I would have to say, unfortunately, but fortunately, those of us seasoned citizens who have been through 7 decades and two centuries and a millennium are going to be called to make sure that some common sense is put into the rebuild. Yes. And I think that, we're seeing that with some of this AI crap, which is a whole nother rabbit hole, but
sure.
Yeah,
I think we may have lost Sam, by the way. I don't know if he's still there. I heard some noise.
Well, if he can hear me, the one thing that I wanted to say to him.
He's there.
The one thing I wanted to say.
I can hear you.
One thing I wanted to say about, how do you believe whatever? When I realized that everything is speculation and it's either yours or somebody else's, I became liberated from a whole bunch of other shit. Because not just the last 3 or 4 years of abject incompetence and, full on faceplant incompetence by the people that are supposed to be the experts. Anybody who's got a 3-letter acronym tattooed on their ass end of their name, they're my first suspects. There is no discipline in the last 3 or 4 years that has not lost a boatload of credibility. So that was, I knew for a long time that the majority of shit that I was told versus what I've experienced and seen was like, wait a minute, these scientific knowledge silos are, they're very limited, they're controlled, they're packed, but they're missing a whole bunch of shit. And half of the shit that's in the silo is questionable to begin with. So that's when I realized, I told my daughters like 4 or 5 years ago, they were out here on a trip and we were talking about all the stuff that's going on in the world while we're, driving out all this beautiful country in the high desert. And they always know that if there's any kind of question on any kind of questionable thing, they can ask their dad. He's probably got something to say about it. So we were talking about something to do with the election or something. And they said, Dad, who do we believe? And I said, you can only believe yourself, because everything starts with your speculation of someone else's speculation. It's all speculation.
I hate answers like that. Dad, what should we do? Well, what does your heart tell you should do? Remember, the oxen are slow, but the earth is patient. Good night.
Well, you were spoiled. The earth is always moving.
All right, we got to get out of here. So as scintillating and stimulating and exciting as this conversation is, we're going to move on from it for tonight. But we can pick this up in other forms later in the week, perhaps Wednesday, because we'll talk a little bit more about some of this stuff on empathy and so on. So I'm going to let you kind of go one by one. Prof, you go first.
Toss me out. I feel like I've been used and abused, so I'm out of here.
Used and abused. At least you're not sweaty and put up. So,
and I'm smiling.
You're smiling. All right,
All right.
Professor
Thanks,
Bauer.
everybody. Have a great week.
Love you, brother. Talk to you soon. Sarah, good to see you.
All right. Thanks, guys. It's good.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for contributing.
Sure.
And hopefully more of this Wednesday.
Oh, I hope we get to talk more in the future.
Absolutely. All right, Sarah. See you later.
All right.
And Sam, good to have you here tonight. It's a rare treat to have my boy come on the show with us. So I'm glad you made it. I think your signal is going wonky, or your phone is, because it's freezing a little bit and you're having to go a little back and forth and off and on. But you're still there. That's good. You look very Jewish in this picture. You look like you're wearing the hat, and all you need is a little forelock on each side. And yeah, there you go. And at least you've got hair up there. So, all right, Sam, son, I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to knock you out of the park here. See you later. All right, everybody. That's it. We're done for tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. I think this was an awful lot of fun. And the time went by really fast. Maybe it's because Sam was here and for me, and it made it, the time just flew by. And it's already an hour and a half since we started the Captain's Cabin. So everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. And we'll see you on Wednesday. I think we're going to have a Robertson tomorrow, Tuesday, at 4 p.m. Central. So Steph and everybody else who were happy that we were on last week, remember, Robertson on Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. London time. So we should see you tomorrow. So on that note, thanks for being here. Live long and prosper. Shalom.